So it has been a huge week in politics and there's a lot to unpack. We now have in the state of Victoria a new Premier. This is the second Premier that Victorians have had that they haven't voted for at the polls. So it feels like a lifetime ago, but in 2022, Daniel Andrews was re-elected with an increased majority to the Victorian Parliament as the leader, and the Labor Party has governed since. Not long after the 2022 state election, Jacinta Allan was parachuted into the role of Premier. She was the anointed successor of Daniel Andrews. He passed the baton on to her. And there was a lot of speculation at the time about what's going on in the background, why is this happening, what kind of landmines or things might there be that are in the background that we don't know about. And there's still a lot of those things that are unfolding that we might learn about in the fullness of time. But from the very beginning, Jacinta Allan was kind of the sorcerer's apprentice. You know, she had the same tricks and toolbox as Daniel Andrews, but she never really had the personality or the temperament to fully pull it off. She wasn't able to quiet media questions. She wasn't able to silence internal criticism or sort of bulldoze her way through in the way that Daniel Andrews seemed to have been able to do. But what was undoubtedly the beginning of the end and her final downfall is the fact that she misread the mood of Victorians when it came to the corruption and the allegations of organised crime, of rorting, of widespread fraud, essentially, in the big build Victorian government construction scheme. So you have allegations of over $15 billion in money that's missing or has been misappropriated in a way that's alleged to be corrupt. I'm sure that's a very conservative number. I'm certain that there's far, far more waste that's happened than that. But instead of acknowledging the substance and the concerns of those disputes, Jacinta Allan bunkered down. And I think the reason she did that is because she perceived this as what I'd call good old-fashioned union bashing, which is kind of a right-wing trope that the Liberals often, and it's a trope because it's true, it's happened a lot over the years, that the Liberal Party and business would essentially say whatever to attack the unions, and that generally the average person wouldn't really connect with that very much. But that's been shown not to be the case. We've had relentless questioning from the media who really have not allowed her to wiggle out of these allegations of corruption. She's been door knocking out in her electorate, speaking with people, interacting with people, as have other Labor MPs, and apparently that has not been going very well at all. So ultimately, the Labor Party is a very efficient survival and power maintenance machine, and the internal power brokers and factions within the Labor Party have essentially knocked on Jacinta's door. Apparently they wanted to speak with her and present her with some sort of letter or thing telling her she'd lost support. She didn't want to see them, but yesterday that all came to a head, and before a caucus meeting that would have seen her rolled, she handed in her resignation and announced that she would no longer be the Premier. Now, there was some thought or suggestion that she might have actually contested that ballot and forced her opponents to blast her out. That ended up not being the case. She said that she would look forward to supporting Ben Carroll, who was her Deputy Premier, and he is a member of the Labor Party's right faction. Now, if you don't know much about internal Labor Party politics and factions, and you'd be forgiven for not knowing, because unlike the Liberal Party, they're very good at keeping these divisions and these internal disputes invisible to the general public. They're much better at message discipline, they're much better at apportioning roles and ministries to the different factions, so everyone sort of eats, and you normally don't see these disputes arise. It's all usually very controlled. But the Labor right faction of the Labor Party is often Catholic, not always, sort of quite socially conservative, economically more like Hawke than someone like Albo or Keane, or I literally just about said Keynes instead of Chalmer, so I'm going to keep that in. So the Labor right is a very different beast, and in Victoria, the socialist left have had the reins and the ruling sort of position for a very, very long time. And so Ben Carroll now is the new Premier of Victoria. He has come out essentially and said immediately that Labor is going to hold a royal commission into corruption in the building sites. They're going to give IBAC new powers to follow the money, and they're essentially going to go through things and try to tackle this corruption issue. Now, even though Ben Carroll's saying, I'm not Daniel Andrews, I'm not Jacinta Allan, he's played a major role in both of those administrations. And it's going to be very interesting to see if he can successfully distance himself from those allegations. Whether he can or not, I think that a big unspoken thing here that a lot of people don't realise is both One Nation and the Liberal Party have kind of been planning or banking on a very weak, very disliked Labor government under Jacinta Allan. Regardless of the success or failure of the Labor Party to kind of rebrand under a new leader, they are now definitely going to be in for a much bigger fight. And Victoria, even under Allan, was always at a very strong risk of Labor getting a thrashing, but maybe not losing enough ground to govern on their own right or to potentially govern in a coalition with the Greens. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in Victoria over the coming months. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of what's happened? Are you disappointed you didn't get to give Jacinta a kick at the ballot box? What do you think of the new leader, Ben Carroll? Do you think that's going to make a difference to the way you vote? And I'd love to hear your thoughts about the union corruption issues as well. So as always, if you're not a subscriber to the channel, give us a subscription, like the video, and share it with someone you think might want to see it and help the channel grow. Talk soon.